Oh, the Montana State Auditor. Okay. All right. Okay. Mr. Downing, welcome. Just right there, and if you want to push the button on the mic there, talk directly into the mic so we can hear you. Please, yes.
Oops. Is that good? Is it on now?
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for taking the time to allow us to address you. And for those who don't know, I'm Troy Downing, the Montana State Auditor. And what we do is regulate securities and insurance, and I'm one of the land board members. And for Chairman McDonald, members of the Tribal Council, again, thank you for your hospitality and thank you for the time. I really appreciate this. So I'm going to talk a little bit today. And would you rather me sit, or how do you want me here? Is this fine?
It's up to you. Yeah.
I just
however
want,
you feel. However you feel comfortable.
Okay, I can still see you. Perfect.
All right.
Yeah. So I talk a little bit about what we do in our office. And, one of the things that we really want to accomplish is what we're doing, what we're calling a listening tour. And we're trying to meet with communities and with, tribal communities, with underserved, with just across Montana, and understand what issues you're dealing with, where we can collaborate to try to help. And so it's important for us to, we come in not saying, here's a solution for a problem we think you have. We want to hear what you're dealing with and find ways that we can help on that. So I'm going to start out just talking a little bit about some of the things that we do in our agency. And if there's ever any questions, feel free to just stop me. So, first of all, we regulate insurance and securities. And so the insurance part is interesting because it's one of the few things that are regulated primarily on a state level. And there's very, very little, federal oversight in insurance. And so what we do, everything from automobile and homeowner to, health insurance to, you name it. So that follows under our jurisdiction. And what we do in the office is consumer protection. We do a lot of outreach and education for consumers, and then we regulate industry and try to find ways that we can get rid of barriers for industries succeeding in the state, so that we have good, strong industry, as long as it's not crossing a line of harming the insurers, the consumers. On the security side, this is a less understood part, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And under securities, a lot of people think of a stockbroker or something very specific, but we cover lots of types of financial crimes, Ponzi schemes. We prosecute. We register multi-level marketing groups. So basically, when you've got somebody that has to put together a network of people to sell things for them. We do a lot of prosecutions and education for crimes against seniors, financial crime, financial fraud. That's a big thing that we do in our office. We started what's called a FAST team, which is a financial specialist team. And what that does, it's an investigator and a set of lawyers that are prosecutors in our office that are specifically deal with financial crimes against seniors, against the elder community. And that's something that is taken a lot of our time, because it's important. We're in one of the our Montana in Western states has the oldest population per capita and one of the oldest in the country. And so a lot of the crimes that we see that we prosecute in our office are with seniors. So that's something that we have a great team of experts. And they're there to help other agencies in the state. They're there for consumer protection. They're there for county prosecutors, county attorneys. So it's a resource that we make available for the state when you have issues like that. And so,
Mr. Downing,
yes.
in regards to that particular issue, does the state auditor's office engage with the tribal governments on the elder issues that you just mentioned?
You know, we would, and that's one of the reasons we're here, is to find out ways that we can, you know, collaborate and work together.
Okay.
And so, you know, like I said, we're really calling this initial, and I appreciate having this initial meeting, is to find common ground where we can collaborate and give expertise and what to look for, how to protect elders, you know, and you know, how to, you know, protect yourself, your parents, your grandparents, you know, understanding what kind of schemes are coming through. And so we do a lot of outreach on social media. We do podcasts, we do traditional media like television ads. We do, you know, all these different ways of trying to get the message out there, and an opportunity to, you know, work with the tribes on what they're seeing in elder exploitation and elder financial abuse, I think would be meaningful. And it's something that that our agency would love to engage in, to the extent that we can help and offer that expertise. So,
all right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you. So the other one, you know, I'm one of the 5 members of the land board, and I'm sure you're familiar with that, but we, you know, manage a little over, you know, 5 million acres of state trust land, and, you know, primarily to fund public education, but it, you know, drives a lot of industry, you know, agriculture, natural resource development, you know, timber, you know, all the things that we do with our land. And that's something that, that I take personally very seriously, on making sure that we are being stewards, that we are managing the lands in a way that we have them forever, but we're still getting what we can out of them without depleting the asset to fund public education. So it's something that I personally am very invested in, as well as my team. You know, some of the things that we do too, a lot of people, one of the reasons we do as much outreach as we do is if somebody has a problem with securities fraud, you know, or financial fraud, or they've, you know, had somebody swindled them in some fake deal or some Ponzi scheme, or we see a lot of romance schemes with elders, which is a growing problem, where, you know, they're online, they're lonely, somebody pretends to be someone they're not, starts a relationship, and suddenly they coerce the victim to send money, and then they disappear. So what we run into, because the title of state auditor, when you're a victim of a crime like that, most people don't think, I'm going to call the state auditor. And so the reason we do a lot of the outreach we do is so that they know to call us. And a lot of folks, when they are taken advantage of in that way, they're embarrassed, so they don't want to call, or they don't know who to call, or they think that the person who has swindled them has already, you can't find them, you don't know how to find them, or there's no money there to actually make restitution. But one of the things that we've done in our office is we actually have a securities restitution fund that is paid for by some of the registrations that we manage with investment advisors, and also with fines that we that we levy upon bad actors when we have prosecutions or agency actions. So it's funded through that. And even though we don't make victims whole, it's a pot of money. And so one example of that is there was a multi-state action last year against a company called metals.com, which was selling fraudulent securities in precious metals. They were saying they were selling you know, gold and silver, but they never were actually doing that. And so we were part of a multi-state action that closed that down and went after the perpetrators, but there was no money except for the victims in Montana, because we had that restitution fund, and we were able to write them, you know, checks, not to make them whole, but, you know, these were, you know, very often $25,000 to $50,000 checks. And when you've lost everything, you know, that's meaningful. And so that's something that's important for us, that people understand, you know, what we do, and think when they are victims that they don't be embarrassed, call us. It helps us understand what's going on. It helps us teach other people what to look out for. And so it's important to us. Another thing that I do, which I'm actually pretty proud of, and what we've you know, been able to accomplish so far, and you know, really increasing this awareness, is there's a National Association of Insurance Commissioners, NAIC, And that there's a commissioner in each state in DC and then the American territories. So there's 56 total commissioners. And there's different committees there. I sit on the health and managed care committee. So we're part of that discussion on health insurance, on managed care. But one of the committees that I chair is the American Indian and Alaska Native Liaison Committee.
Right.
And so what that committee is, it's a national platform for identifying issues in Native communities and how we can do consumer protection, how we can ensure that there's insurance products available in pueblos in New Mexico, on reservations in Montana, and also insurance products for urban Indians in other states. And so I just started chairing that at the beginning of this year. And some of the things that we're working on right now, we're putting together tools for cross-cultural communication so that non-native communities can effectively communicate with native communities. And it's as you know, it's not as easy as it may sound, because you can't put one blanket over every tribal community. They're all unique and have their own unique things, but we're trying to put together toolkits so that folks trying to do business understand what might be a barrier to effective communication. And so that's one of the projects we're doing. Another project that we're working on is understanding access to Affordable Care Act, to Obamacare, to market insurance products. And a lot of that is educational as well, because some folks may think that the Indian Health Services is insurance, which obviously it's not. But understanding how to navigate not just IAS, but also to find ACA programs and navigate those effectively. So we're trying to put together a toolkit that makes sense, not just in tribal communities on reservations, but also urban Indians, pueblos, and basically answering these questions for these groups.
Well, Mr. Downing, I appreciate you recognizing the fact that every tribe is different and unique.
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, I thank you for saying that. And we have spent a lot of time, talking to different communities, and it becomes clear, that there are differences and there's similarities, just like there's similarities between all of us, and really identifying that and making sure that we are not coming in and saying, I have a great solution for your problem, but coming in and saying, what are your concerns and how can we help? And so that's kind of the way that we're taking a lot of this. One last thing that one of the projects we're doing on the national side as well is, this happened. Actually, it was a good result in Montana and in a lot of the tribal communities across the country, but looking at lessons learned during the pandemic. Because in Montana, the tribal communities were very effective, more so than the general population, at getting folks vaccinated, at dealing with the pandemic. And so what we're trying to do with that is have these conversations on what worked. And we talked to some that say, well, we had these community events, some of them used incentives, some there's all these different solutions, but we want to come up with a toolkit that says, if we're ever faced with something like that again, what worked and what are the lessons learned and how do we, build upon that? So that's one of the other conversations we're having on the national side. So one of the things that I'm really excited about having this initial meeting with, because I'm hoping this is one of many, because I want to make sure that we understand, what's on your minds and what your concerns and hopes and roadblocks and aspirations are, to the extent that it falls with us. Because some of the things that we have that we deal with and that we're trying to accomplish on the security side especially is outreach. So some of the things that we're trying to do across the state, as well as in tribal communities that identify this as being an issue, is education on financial empowerment. Financial literacy, of understanding, all the way from the beginning of, there's so many kids, across the country right now that just don't understand, what a checking account is, don't understand how to do basic financials. And then all the way up to one of our charges as my charge as the Commissioner of Securities is capital formation. In other words, helping businesses understand and entrepreneurs understand how to raise money from investors. And so that's something that we're putting a lot of attention into to make sure that we're getting the resources out there on how you structure a security, which is what that is. If you're taking money from an investor to build, to improve an existing business, or an entrepreneur creating a new one, that's a big part of the outreach that we want to do. And I think there's opportunities on both of those, on the basic financial literacy, financial empowerment, all the way up to capital formation. And so that's another thing that we'd like to see and explore, and see if there's opportunities to help in the tribal colleges, with the communities, to see where there's opportunity to push these messages, because I think there's a lot that we can do across Montana by just elevating and having this education. And just so you know, my background is in education. I used to teach and a long time ago, but what we're trying to do in these non-legislative years in the office is really put together good educational opportunities so that we can start, rising the tide and floating more boats in Montana. And so that's one of the things that we're dealing with. The other thing is, and this is something that we have heard of, and I'm not sure because I haven't heard from you yet, but in some of the other reservations, we hear about concerns of lack of insurance markets. And so we've been working with some groups that are trying to solve housing crises in reservations. And so they're working with how to finance those, and then how to insure those. And then we hear that there's very few opportunities in actually insuring it once you do that. And so we'd love to hear what's going on here, and see what we can do to help ensure that there are markets available for that. And then the other part is consumer protection, and make sure that nobody is being taken advantage of by somebody, offering, non-legitimate insurance products here. And, to the extent that we can offer that, that advice and that education, and have those conversations, that's something that we are really engaged in doing. And so, a big part of that obviously is homeowners insurance, and really, making sure that there are, because what we've heard in some other parts of the states is they'll say, well, no agent will sell me insurance on the reservation. And so then we go out to the markets, to the actual, underwriters, the actual insurance companies, and they say, oh yes, we will write. And so bridging that gap and understanding where that's not working, but we can't solve problems that we don't hear about. And so having those conversations so that we can start raising that. And one of the things that we are doing right now is we are doing what's called a data call. So we're asking the insurance underwriters in the state to tell us if they are insuring on reservations, and give us a number of those so that we can see firsthand whether they're just telling us they do, or they're actually selling product there. So I know I've been speaking as a big monolith here.
Excuse me, Carol, you have a comment?
Yeah, I have a comment. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is hard for tribal governments and tribal members to get insurance, but not necessarily here on the Flathead Reservation. It's less of an issue. Are you a member of a GRIP?
I'm not, no.
Okay, it's the Association of Governmental Risk Pools.
Okay.
Anyway, the reason why I ask is the tribes are founding members of a risk pool called Amrand.
Oh yes, I'm familiar with that. Yes.
Okay, and I was just recently appointed the Cell Commission, the Regulatory Cell Commission chairman.
Great.
And so and I serve as the regulatory part of Amrand.
Well, great.
And we insure about 250 housing authorities across the nation. And also included in that is workman's comp and governmental insurance for governmental organizations like this. And so they do a lot of things. And then there's also, like I said, workman's comp and the insurance part, the health insurance part of it. So anyway, yeah, and I guess the other question I have is on your public land board funds. Are any of those funds, do they go to anything else but public schools? Do they go to any of the private schools?
I'm not aware of any of that going to private schools. I mean, they're primarily there are different trustees. There are the land grant universities, there's the K through 12. I don't believe it's going to any private schools. I mean, it was not intended to do that. And if that's changed, I am not aware of that. And
Well, if it's changed, I'd like to know it, so.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
if it's changed, I would like to know that too. So
Okay.
I
And
don't
I
want to
think-
say absolutely because I haven't, verified that, but I don't believe that it is.
And I think you would know as sitting on the board.
And I have
right?
not, of all the, we have one land board meeting a month and they've all been common schools or land grant universities.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
All right.
And I appreciate that. And I'd love to exchange contact information so that we can, understand what you're seeing on Ameren and yeah, if you have any questions or concerns, and I'm sure we will as well, it'd be nice to have that contact. So. Great. Well, thank you. Thank
All right,
you.
well, thank you, Mr. Downing. I also would like to just acknowledge your role as a state land board member. As you're probably aware, we have started discussions with DNRC and BLM and the Forest Service about the exchange of state trust lands
Yes.
here on the reservation. Just kind of, we had our first meeting here just fairly recent. And what was kind of troubling about the process is knowing that this is a federal law and it is going to happen. That the BLM and DNRC has developed a large checklist of items that they are requiring the tribes to go through before they will sign ownership over to the tribes. Now, as we all are aware, the tribes were not afforded that opportunity when the lands were taken for the state land trust purposes,
Right.
At the time. So knowing that we have to go through a checklist on every parcel of land, and we only have 3 years remaining to accomplish this task, it's good. It's going to be really close, but I know we'll get it done. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I don't expect a response, but that is an issue that we here at the tribes are thinking about.
Yeah,
So
well,
just wanna let
thank
know.
you for that, Chairman, Vice Chairman Tootie. I appreciate that. And I will tell you that it concerns me that I don't want to rush this because, our best solution is to have a win-win. And, that's what we're hoping for. I have reached out and I've had my staff reached out to DNRC to get briefed on the issues because I know it's going on, but it hasn't actually come to my desk yet. But I will say, and I think anybody who's watched me as a member of the land board, I'll make sure that everybody's had a chance to opine and give their opinions and make sure that we do our due diligence on it. Because if not, I won't vote for it until everything is settled and everybody's had a chance to speak.
Well, Mr. Downing, I really appreciate it because one of the issues was the actual transfer of full ownership to the tribes. The state has indicated that they plan on retaining mineral rights on those properties. And we're contending that we don't even know if at the time that they were taken from the tribe, that we even released them to the state. So there's that kind of discussion that's taking place right now. And I'm sure we're going to come to a solution, but
Right.
it's just kind of troubling knowing that we have to go through this, especially knowing that this is a federal law that is going to take place. So anyway, thank you. I appreciate you listening to me.
Right. Well, thank you, Vice Chairman. One thing, to reiterate, in my office, everything that we've done of substance in terms of legislation, in terms of policy positions, we make sure that every stakeholder understands that they don't just have a seat at the table, that they are listened to and considered. And so we will give you those opportunities. And if there's ever an opportunity after, I get my briefing from DNRC and we start to get into the materials, if you want to send somebody to my office or you want us to come up here and discuss it, we're more than willing to do that.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thanks.
Yes.
So on that, I just want to, once again reiterate that we'd love to explore opportunities to collaborate, to see if there's things that we do in our office that can help, issues that you see that we can be of assistance, especially on the outreach, on the education side, on the consumer protection side, access to markets, any of that stuff. Please reach out, use us as a resource. And, I appreciate the opportunity to address you all. And I'm hoping that this is, one of many conversations.
Mr. Downing, I want to thank you and your staff for taking the time to come visit with us this morning. That means a lot to us. It tells us a lot about you. And we do look forward to engaging in these other kind of issues that you just mentioned.
Great.
Because we weren't, at least for me, I wasn't aware that we can work with the auditor's office on some of those issues, especially when it comes to our elders.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, yeah, we look forward to that. And
Is there any-
on that, any questions?
Questions, comments? Okay,
Well, thank you
Well,
very
thank
much
you.
for your time. I appreciate it.
all right.
If I can find my mask. Oh, there it is.
All right, moving right along. Energy keepers. Come on, Ralph, come on up. Yes,
Good morning.
good morning.
So first of all, sorry you got sick, Tom. You look like you're being well taken care of though, so hope for a speedy recovery.
I got my chocolate lab right here beside me. He's guarding me. Yeah. So
Awesome.
You woke him up.
Good deal. Sorry, didn't mean to wake you up.
Woke up his dog. No, he woke up his dog.
Okay.
Or we woke up his dog this morning.
Oh, so that being said, Len, you're chairing the meeting, I presume?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, today for bringing us in. We have a very good, I think, quarterly report for you to bring today, so we'll run through that. We have our annual operating plan to put before you. It's a continuation of the strategy that we've laid up a couple years ago.
Before we get started, do we need to go into shareholders?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go out of regular session, go into shareholders.
And then we have lunch coming in at noon. So the AOP is presented for your consideration today. You can adopt it today or not, and we've got a little bit of time if you want to review it. So